Blessings. Blessings. How are you this evening? This is a spontaneous live stream that is totally guided by spirit. And when spirit calls, we can either say yes and receive the invitation, or we can say no, thank you. And tonight I said, yes, thank you. And I guess the reason why I'm called to be here tonight is because I was invited this afternoon to be a guest speaker for a gathering of students who are studying in the tradition of new paradigms. And their instructor, Michael McDonald, has been guiding them along many different timelines and lineages in the realm of everything from philosophy to shamanism. And he knows that I have sat with the medicine. And so he invited me to speak on shamanism and on ayahuasca, the experience and the journey. And as I came home tonight, spirit guided that I just plug in. I just got home a few minutes ago, and spirit said, plug in and go live and just share. And I really don't know what I'm going to share. But that's the way spirit works, and you just have to trust it. So here we are, and thank you for hopping on and joining for who knows what is to come. But there were just so many interesting conversations, and I feel like paying it forward. I feel like sharing it with you. And I guess at the heart of it, what the message is and always is where there is a resistance to love in our path, we will see ourselves, if we choose to be conscious of those ways that we are, in general, in the third dimension, unconscious. When we enter an altered state reality, there is nothing that we are put in front of other than the self. And truly, that's all that we are ever confronted with, is the self. Yet in an altered state of consciousness, it is, as I said to a student today, it's like that movie, The Spinal Tap, where everything is just turned up to 11. And you can do your best to resist it. You can do your best not to see that part of self. Yet when we allow ourselves to surrender to truth, to those areas in life where we still require healing, where there are maybe old sentences of grief or resentment, pain, anger, fear, really, all of it is fear. That these altered states of consciousness, whether we are embodied and receive them through a natural means, being through just in a meditation, in a crystal bowl sound bath, or through participating in medicinal substances, whether they be mushrooms, the medicine, ayahuasca, etc., is that the determining factor of your experience is deeply rooted in where you find yourself at that time-space continuum in the realm of your healing. So if you are still harboring old karmas, old memories that are fear-based, addictions, etc., that's the first thing you're going to be shown on your journey. And then it will be up to you as to how you will navigate that. But also, it's not just up to you, because in an appropriate ceremonial situation, you will have been calling in your love, your light, your guides, your totems, what have you. And those are our anchors, back to source, back to one, back to that unity consciousness that always is, the love that is the truth, pervading everything beyond time and space. And ultimately, that's our path with all of our practices, our meditation, our Reiki, our any spiritual practice that you are with. It's always that it is recalibrating us, mind, body, spirit, and bringing us those parts of ourselves that are fragmented on the earth plane back to source, back to one. And sometimes our journeys are met with those fear-based realities that we think are still real, that we hold cellular memory of. And that's why these journeys can be so powerful and have so much potential in our healing. And that's why healing can happen in an instant when we allow ourselves to be released from those fragmented parts of self, where we really come up against them and we look them in the eye, looking ourselves in the eye, feel all those feelings and emotions and allow them to viscerally move through us. And then come to that clearing point, whether it's through tears, through screaming, through crying, through vomiting, through whatever all those things are. And then there is the calm. Once we have realized it and faced our shadow to an extent, then there comes the realization of the oneness. Then there comes the calm, the I'm not just a drop in the ocean, I am the ocean, I am one with the ocean. That heaven on earth realization, as we call it. And so we see that most of the resistances we experience in life are deeply rooted in those places we have our own fears about. And the blessing, the administering of these medicines, or of taking any practice into a very sacred and ceremonial way and means, creates the correct conditions for us to experience a healing, and ultimately to come into attunement with the truth. And it is beyond the truth that is your personality truth, although that's a part of it, part of the story, if you're a human being here, which probably percentages of us are incarnating in this life as a human being. If you're watching this on YouTube right now, chances are you're a human. But that we're remembering that we are not just this body, that we are eternal. And I guess why I'm called to be with you here tonight, for how long I don't know, but is to just remind us, to remind you that you are ever potent, that you are that divinity of oneness. And the illusion is constant, but the illusion is only as strong as our resistance to love is. As we release the barriers to love, to loving ourselves, to loving others, to loving our so-called past and the cellular memory contained within them, we are at once freed. It begins to loosen the binds that have once chained us to the gravity of the grids, to the gravity of this reality seeming real. And so we are freed. We are freed from it. And we get to remember and experience that we are not just a body, that we are eternal, that we are form and formlessness. And that's what our practices take us into. And specifically with the medicine, you know, when I sat with her the first time, it was as if I was coming back to a place I had known so well. It was as when she first started kicking in and I could feel this cellular activation in me. I was at home. I thought, oh man, this is so beautiful. I'm home. I've been here so many times before, sitting with this beautiful medicine, with this beautiful essence in so many past lives gone by. And it was a beautiful recounting and recoming, a homecoming. And she told me, I asked her, I said, well, what are you? I said, what are you? And she said, I am liquid love. And I thought, wow, this is so very powerful. We put the love, the liquid love into us, ingested through this medicine, and it acts as a roto-rooter of sorts, wherever there is resistance within us to love, and I'm talking love and only love, where there's not like 80% love, but 20% I'm still holding on to XYZ, but where we can completely surrender and let go of the reins and let go to love. Then she can flow freely through us cellularly and through all the layers of our energy bodies and show us love, show us greater levels of love. And so we are initiated into greater levels of love. And everything ultimately is an initiation into greater love. Every situation we have. But the point is that when we are with the ayahuasca, with the medicine, those parts of us that resist love, where there's fear and experiences in past times rooted in the deep seat of fear, that's where the medicine will do its roto-rootering and where it will help to clear and cleanse us of those aspects within us. And sometimes it can be turbulent, but it doesn't have to be. You know what I loved about the shaman, my first teacher with the medicine, was she said she was Russian. She is Russian. She's a Russian living in Hawaii with the name of Janet. And she said, and I love doing the Russian accent, so she said, only love and light in this place. Only love and light in this place is allowed. And she circled us in a ring of love and light. And then she said, maybe you will get sick a little bit. We were each equipped, sitting with our little trash bag to vomit in if we should feel that urge. And she said, but maybe you won't get sick. And I really loved that, because every other person I'd spoken to, or everything I'd heard about it, is that you're definitely going to puke your brains out and it's going to take you on this crazy wild ride. And it was interesting because I went and I was called to sit with the medicine to deal with a deep addiction that I had been living with for about 20 years or more. And I had had so much and I still wasn't feeling anything. And I said to the person sitting to my right, who is a son of mine from a past life, I said to him, I'm not feeling anything. And he said, give it another 15 minutes. So I sat, and then still nothing. And I says, what do I do? And he said, well, you have to go to the shaman and tell her what your experience is. And she will consult with the medicine and the medicine will guide her from there. And so I did. And I crawled over to her and I told her what my experience was and that I was there to work with this addiction. And she looked at me, she did her thing, she poured me another cup. I blessed it, I blessed her, drank it. And as soon as I sat down, it was a very interesting experience, because I will preface it by saying that then it began to kick in. And then I was feeling nauseous. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to puke. I'm going to puke. And my ego did not want to puke. My ego did not want to puke. I wanted to be like this high holy person sitting there unaffected by this, crazy wild medicine. And meanwhile, I was feeling like I'm going to puke. I'm going to puke. I'm going to puke. And I was talking to the medicine saying, oh my God, here we go. Here we go. I don't feel good. I don't feel good. And the medicine said, exactly. Well, this is all of your resistance. And this is all of your addiction. This is all of your grasping and holding onto whatever the roots are that has caused you to be at one with this habit, right? With this continual taking of this certain substance. And so the medicine said, so go drink more. And I was like, are you joking me? No way. Then I'm definitely going to puke. My ego was like, oh no, I'm good with just this one glass, or at this point I was on the 2 cups. I'm good with it. I don't want to puke. I don't want to And she said, well, this is why you've come all the way to New York to sit with the shaman in this circle and do this medicine. And this is what you're here to do, right? And I was like, of course. So I went back to the shaman, facilitating the circle. And I told her, and she looked me up and down. She sort of did her own consultation with the medicine, and she poured me another cup. And I was like, oh man, I'm definitely going to puke now. This is going to take me to the other level. Blessed it, blessed her, did the juice, sat back down. And within moments, my feelings of nausea disappeared. And I thought this was really profound. And so I sat and I meditated with the medicine, with the mother energy that is that medicine. And I said, what is this all about? Like, I was totally feeling like I was going to puke a moment ago. And now I feel amazing, actually. This is like incredible. And the medicine said, she said, your simple willingness to go there, your simple willingness to puke, to release and resolve this through a physical vomiting, is the exact elixir that has unbound you from the need to do that at all. And I didn't get sick that night. And so the point is that our own resistance can make us sick. Our own resistance to love, to balance, to well-being, to harmonically listening and honoring our higher self and the truth within our heart, is the only thing that causes us the rough ride, that causes us the turbulence. And sometimes it comes through in physical ailments, and sometimes it comes through in weird karmas and things happening in life with people, places, and things, where we keep running into certain aspects. Yet, if we look at it on the spiritual level, let us remember that it is only that where we have that resistance, where that will show up for us, that resistance to love. So tonight, today, where can you release? Where can you simply surrender and allow love in? And ultimately, in my experience, the practice of shamanism is attuning with love, attuning with nature, with the elements, and really being at their service. It's not about us. It's not about you deciding what needs to happen. It's fully about letting go of the reins and allowing what the divine design guides you what kind of space they guide you. It guides you to hold, to administer, to facilitate. And in that same way, whether you identify as being a shaman or not, I feel that we all have an inner shaman, as we all have a higher self. And so we are constantly met with the opportunity to be that and embody that, to release the resistance, to release, to surrender to the discord, to feel those feelings that we don't want to feel. I know a lot of people right now that are going through really heavy addictions and really having a lot of resistance to sitting in calm clarity with the reality of what is at the root. What is the root cause of why there is resistance, why they keep going to the addiction, why they keep having those patterns that repeat. And again, whether it's with a deep addiction, a depression, a suicidal tendency, um, self sabotage, anything that's rooted in that self hate and self fear. And it can be very seductive, the fear. You know, it can make us, we can feel safe sometimes in that fear zone. And it becomes a very comfortable place to be. Yet the idea is to be okay with dying, because you are not really a body anyway. And the moment that you realize that you are not a body and you're okay with dying a certain death, that being to your past, that which is gone, which is done, which is not real, which does not exist, and according to A Course in Miracles, you know, I'm a Course in Miracles student, actually never really happened, right? That is your salvation. That is your freedom. That is the moment where everything starts to change. That's the moment where your whole life changes, because you allow in that higher order, that higher level of consciousness that is always present, that is always within you, and you surrender to it. And yes, there will be some turbulent times as we move through the healing parts of our journey. Yet ultimately, it's to bring us into greater healing and greater oneness, greater sovereignty. That old saying, know thyself. You know, when you really have taken yourself through the depths of your darkness, through the depths of your shadow, of those fear, of your jealousies, of your greeds, of your competitive nature, or whatever it is that you know, when you're conscious enough, you know it's either helping you or hindering you, whatever the value is or the issue is. And when you know it is something that is hindering your ability to be a greater channel for love and light, well, that's the signal. And so that's what we're invited to do with every single moment of every single day and every experience we have. No one crosses your path on accident. And this is something I've been working on, and I invite you to be with as well. You know, beyond the confines of time and space, there is no time and there is no space. We are one being. But on this dimension, we are this one being fractalized into many different beings having many different experiences as the one. And so when you meet someone, even if you're at the line at the bank, or you bump into someone at Trader Joe's or whatever it might be at the store, be present with it. And even if it is just so that you can exemplify kindness and not otherworldliness, right? So where you are not in the world, where you can experience yourself being freed of time and space, and just sort of turn the world upside down, as Carlos Castaneda would say, and sit in the presence of what is exactly in front of you. And even if it seems just really peripheral and not very important, there is a sacred quality to why you are crossing paths with that person, that place, that thing. And if you're very present with it, it will show you things about yourself, about the world, that no one or nothing else can. And so when you know yourself, when you've gone through the depths of the darkness of your soul, one time, many times, whatever your karmas are in this life, and you really get to know yourself, then you understand the dynamics and the mechanics of how all metaphysics work, of how all time space works, of how all healing works, multidimensional healing, because we are one and we share the same path. Now, there's many different books, there's many traditions, many cultures, many ways to do this healing, many ways to travel this journey. Yet, as we allow ourselves to know thyself, and for many of us, it's through modalities of healing, whether it be Reiki, whether it be hiking, whether it be acupuncture, or going to a Western doctor, cancer. These are all things that allow us, that give us the opportunity to find grace and to know thyself. And again, as we know ourselves, then we get the schematics of the way this whole thing works. And that's your inner shaman. That's when you really start to realize it's not just about you, that there is a greater whole dynamic at work, and that it is about that greater whole. Yes, your personal identification, your personal path is vital. These are our lessons. These are our growth spurts. These are our karmas, if you will. The situations that we have set up, either in this life or a combination of in this life and in past lives, that have created a certain condition for us to have now. Yet once we get that, and we get that over and over again, we are free. We are free to be in the world and not of it. And that's your inner shaman, to be in the world and not of it. The world is only as real as you allow it to be. We are experiencing, right, quantum realities, parallel dimensions, infinite potentials of choosing one way or another how we are going to respond, how we are going to exist in this moment and every moment from this point on. And it is your choice that will discern and help you navigate the pathways with which you travel. There is always love. Love is an eternal, right? It is the backdrop, the foundation of all in existence. That's what I teach. That's what I've learned. That's what I know, without a doubt. But the world will pull us in one direction or another, and we will, sometimes be convinced that this is it, that the buck stops here. At the tragedy, at the violence, at the chemtrails, at all the stuff that we can get enamored with and really seduced by, the dramas and the traumas of this world. And the point is that, yes, we don't have to turn a blind eye. Yet, if you are called to stand and go and stand at a political rally, and that's your truth in your heart, then that is a part of your karmatic pathway. That's a part of your puzzle piece that you are holding. And I did that for many years. And it's whatever is true to you. If you decide that you are happy to sit on the meditation mountain while everyone else is rallying, well, that's perfectly fine too. We're all holding space in different ways, but ultimately it is you knowing and discerning what is your truth, and allowing that, surrendering to that wholeheartedly, without knowing what's going to happen at the end of it, but to wholeheartedly allow yourself to submit to the glory, to the grace of that supernatural existence. That's when we begin to tap into those parallel dimensions and those quantum realities of who we can be outside of the confines of time and space of this world that we think we know. And we know it pretty well. I mean, we can do this earth thing pretty well. Chances are, if you're here now and you're still alive, you've been here before. And so you've done this earth dance before. You've done this, you've been in a body before. And perhaps not every situation or lifetime is so, maybe you're not always a king or a queen with loads of money and a very kind, graceful person and just having these beautiful karmas. Maybe you are a bodhisattva in that way. Yet we're here. They call this the earth school, right? We're here to learn these lessons, to learn what it is to be human and to connect as a humanity, ultimately so that we can remember that we are one. Treat others as you would like to be treated yourself. Yet it is so mystical and such a different realm to live on this world without being of it, to be in it and not of it. And that's where our supernatural embodiment, our enlightened embodiment comes into being, when we can allow ourselves to choose quantumly love and to take the high road, so to speak, to put it in layman's terms. That opens up an eternal and infinite realm of possibilities that we would not otherwise be privy to. We wouldn't even know that they exist. if we didn't have the capacity to honor and to say yes and to surrender our fears and our egos or the ways that we think life has to happen in order for us to be happy, in order for us to be holy, in order for us to whatever. I had a friend recently ask me, is it okay? Or no, it was a student. I recently did a Reiki workshop, and she said, I recently got my marijuana card, and she's a drummer. And she said, and I want to, is it okay to meditate when I smoke pot? And I said, well, what's your experience? And she said, well, I feel like when I smoke it, I want to sit at my drum kit. And she's done this where then she smokes and she sits at the drums, and she has these just beautiful channelings of playing the drums and this wonderful experience for herself of being there. And I said, well, that's a beautiful meditation right there. And there are these sayings in India, you know, uh, should I pray while I smoke, or can I smoke while I pray? And ultimately, no matter what you're doing or what your act is at any given time, if you have the guidance to be meditative, which is really to be present moment aware, to be in the now moment, that is you connecting with source, with oneness, whether you've smoked some pot or whatever your thing is, right? If you listen to that and allow that sacred quality to come into whatever your experience is, it will be sacred. And so, on another note, I know a lot of my 4D trinities of late, we've talked a lot about acid. We've talked a lot about the medicine, the ayahuasca, or mushrooms and such, and doing these journeys. And another friend, student, said, was asking about it, and really my guidance was, you don't have to do any of these things. You don't have to take mushrooms. You don't have to take ayahuasca. You don't have to do weed. You don't have to do any of this to have these spiritual, out of body, altered consciousness, altered state experiences, just being in nature. Is it? And many shaman, I know, only use the drum and the rattle to go into altered states. So you don't have to do ayahuasca. Don't feel that it's something that you're missing out on, or that you need to go on some mushroom trip or a journey to vision quest. You can, if that's what spirit guides you, then you will be guided accordingly and appropriately. And as you meet that guidance with great honor and humility and reverence and respect, then the highest order shall then be provided for you. But it is not necessary. It is not necessary. There have been enough individuals in collectively over time space, according to this grid, that have done that work for you. So all you really need to do is tap in and do a continual practice, your practice. And really, meditation is always at the root of it, right? That will help to ultimately get you into a relaxed state. And that's where we're going, is becoming so relaxed and so unwinding from the stress chemicals, the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight, where we can relax enough into the rest and digest, where the physical body reaches homeostasis, and where we can become at one again, where we forget that we're even a body. And that's the point. And that's where your supernatural superpowers exist. So there was another interesting conversation I was having with the doctor that had asked me to be a guest speaker today. And in the car ride home, we were talking about aliens, which is a topic we haven't talked about too much here. But I have had extensive experiences with many different kinds of beings over the years. And it was interesting because he was asking, I was telling him about one experience that is in my book, The Reiki Apprentice, where I had taken very heavy LSD in Greece, and it had ripped my aura open. On one hand, it was a very powerful, beautiful, beautiful experience. Yet on the other hand, weeks after that, month after that, I had left the mountain in Greece and I went back to Italy, and my crown chakra was just blown open. My third eye was blown open. And so I was seeing things, hearing things, voices in my head, seeing beams out of the corner of my eye, just like the worlds were meshing. And there was no solid sense of 3D reality. And so you feel like you're going nuts because you hear voices, these things are coming in. And at that point of my life, I didn't know enough practices. I didn't have the tools to hone in. And so I had met with this woman who told me, she said, whoa, your aura is ripped open. You have to like stay away from cigarettes and alcohol and marijuana, and you have to just really build up the white light around you. And that really helped me, just knowing that, to breathe white light in, breathe white light out, and to surround myself with white light. And that I didn't really have to do anything other than be very mindful in my practices and cut out those addictive things that I was used to having as a habit, but call in the white light and really let the wisdom of that white light create the correct conditions for the healing. Because your body, your energy bodies know how to recalibrate, they know how to heal themselves. Why am I talking about this? Because there was a night that I spent there with a friend, and I used to have these experiences that I call the gray. If you're awake, that's the white. You're asleep, that's the black. That space in between where you're awake, but you are so on the tip of falling asleep. And you're like, oh, like where you're aware, but you know you're going into la la land, into that sleepy phase. That's the gray. And I've had several repetitions, and we'll talk about all of those at another time, but there was one specifically that got me again. And in the gray, what would happen, and repetitions of this, I lived in Ireland for 10 years, and that's where I had a lot of my alien, a lot of visitations and interesting experiences, but especially in the gray, where I would be in the gray knowing that I was going to sleep. And while I was in the gray, I felt like beings would come and they would basically put me in one of those Houdini, wraps where you can't move and you're absolutely paralyzed. And I couldn't open my mouth. I couldn't make a sound. I could move my eyes, but that was it. I couldn't move my body. And I felt like I was just being held down and watched, observed, and made commentary over. And anyway, there's a lot of different experiences, but this one in Italy, after I came back to Italy, after taking that it was called Gorbachev, and it was a black acid tab. After I had taken that and my aura was just wide open and I was hearing things and seeing things, staying on the couch at my friend's house, and I was facing in the couch and cuddled up, and the window was wide open. It was a beautiful evening. The wind was coming in and I was just getting into that gray. And then here they come, these beings. And I'm locked down and I have paralysis and I can't move. Yet I can hear and sense, that feeling when someone's standing really close to you, behind you, and there's someone there, but they haven't touched you yet, or you feel like a finger is like just barely touching the place between your shoulder blades, but you don't feel the actual connection, the touch, but energetically you feel it. And even in everyday life, you're at the coffee store, you're at the coffee house, and you're reading your newspaper, and you feel like someone's looking at you, and you look up and you see them looking at you. It's like this, we all have that intuitive sense about us. So I'm locked in the gray, and these beings are there, and they are causing a havoc, and they're moving furniture around the tile floor, and the furniture and the sound is getting louder and louder. It's like this machinery in my body and my head that's going, and it keeps getting louder and louder, and I'm sweating profusely, and I'm getting all freaked out, and I can't move. And my whole thing with the training is I feel that it's a gray. It's the gray training ground, where it is you learning to use your willpower, your third dimensional willpower, despite what's happening to you in these multidimensional realms. And so that was always my training ground with the grays. I knew it's like for so many years, I just felt this victim of like these beings coming in and like just holding me down and examining me, but not in the way that we've learned in these movies, right? Energetically, just prodding, poking, right? Exploring energetically. And so it was the same with this, except these guys were trying to make me crazy. They were moving furniture and making all this sound, and this energy within me was just humming and humming and humming, and this vibration was happening, and I felt on the edge and I couldn't move. And it was all about me being able to muster in the 3D, that part of me that was still conscious and here on the earth plane, and knowing that I'm laying on this couch and that I know I've taken this acid and that I might still be susceptible to having these experiences happening. But I had to go beyond that and choose to turn around and to just face these beings, whatever they were that were causing havoc, that were driving me crazy. I had to like turn around. I could hear their feet on the tiles. I could hear them dragging the kitchen chairs and the table all around the floor, the tile floor. Everything in Italy is tile floors. And it was just driving me crazy. And I had to just get this, like, get out of the fear and just muster up this willpower to just like break out of this Houdini jacket and just like turn around and face them and face them. And anyway, it came to a crescendo. The sound within my head and my body just got to this whole rise. And I was like, and it hit this peak where I was like, that's it. My willpower, I'm turning around. And as soon as I really hit this certain point of will, it came to a climax and it ended. And I was able to turn around. And of course, all the furniture was exactly perfect. Nothing was out of place. There were no beings there. This was an interdimensional experience. This was not happening in the 3D, but it was happening in a different realm. So right away, I remember I have this emergency phone card, and I call my friend. I had worked at the Bodhi Tree bookstore back in the day on Melrose. This was a long time ago. And I called the Bodhi Tree for some reason. That was the first place I called. And my friend Trina answered, and I knew it was her. And I was like, Trina, they're here. It was like a movie. I was like, they're here. And she knew right away what I was saying. She goes, okay, you have to extend your pointer finger and send out a bright blue flame of light. And you have to go into every nook and cranny. You have to close every window and seal every window, every frame, every sinkhole, every drain hole, everywhere that there could be any kind of energy coming in or out. You have to seal it up. And then once you've sealed everything up, you have to stand in the middle of the room and you have to declare with all your might. And she gave me this whole mantra that is just claiming that all discarnate, inappropriate beings, be gone now. You are gone. I am one. And there was this whole beautiful blessing that's in the book that she gave me. And funny enough, though, I was staying with my friend, right, this lady in Italy. So I had to go and wake her up. And I had to say, so I just was visited by all of these beings. We have to close all the doors and I have to seal everything up with the blue flame from my pointer finger. So it was like this crazy reality thing, right? But she was down. She was into it. She's like, okay, let's close it all up and you do your thing and seal it up. She went back to bed. She wasn't messed up at all by it, but I'm like freaked out. So anyway, it was her mother that she took me to the next day, who I call Mama Zen, who totally read me and who was like, oh girl, your aura is wide open. So the point that I'm telling you this is that our willpower, when you have created and cultivated enough willpower to choose beyond the fear, no matter whether it's beings from another planet, no matter whether it's, just a bully at school, whatever it is, when you have cultivated the courage in your third chakra and the trust in your heart to turn around to that energy and to look it in the eye, it will vanquish, it will vanish. That is your point of entry, of mastery, of self-mastery. And know this, that when you have cultivated over and over again the ability to stand in your true power and authority in this third dimension, in the world that's a part of our Earth School teachings and learnings and lessons, you will carry that willpower no matter where you feel yourself traveling or wherever you feel yourself you're being taken. When you do journey, whether it is of a natural level or, and really the medicine and the mushrooms, these are natural too. But I'm saying whether it's with these aspects, with these medicines or not, you will have cultivated that ability to be in the presence of multidimensional beings and situations and light forms that are attuned with the love and the light of Source. And once we break through the minutia of all of our fears and have gained that, sure, we might have training grounds. I know for me, there were years of this gray stuff. There were years of me having run-ins with bullies and learning to use my voice and stand up for myself and all these sort of things. We all have our own karmas with this. Yet once enough of that is cultivated and you've stood up enough to this energy, I know people who say, get thee behind me, Satan. It's like that. It's like looking the tar body in the eye and saying, like, I see you and this is not happening. I'm not going to react to you. I'm not going to respond to you. That's when you collapse timelines and everything shifts in a second and you move into a parallel dimension of existence and of experience that is beautiful, that is so filled with grace and so filled with peace. And you really never have to go back there again unless that's a part of your work. And believe me, there's cycles. There's things that we don't know as we continue our healing path. Maybe you're really good and you've been really good for ages and perhaps something will come and some experience will happen. You'll have to go deep down and do some of that healing again. Yet you shift the tipping points and your tipping point gets to a certain point where you begin to be able to experience so much trust and so much of your own willpower of trusting yourself, of trusting trust, of trusting love, and embodying that fiercely, no matter what stands in front of you, no matter what the situations are, that it cannot exist in your presence because you no longer give it the validation that it is real. And you see, once we have those qualities, once we have those experiences, then we can play. That is heaven on earth. Then we can have an experience here, whether you're on mushrooms, whether you're praying while you're smoking, whether you're smoking weed and playing the drums, whatever it is, that is rooted in the oneness of all creation. And we can have that every single day. We can have glimpses of that, moments of that. And those moments, like a bead on a necklace, get threaded together until eventually those beads on the necklace melt into one long bead. And the thread disappears, the grid disappears, and you have that experience of this continuous, eternal oneness. And it's here for you. It's here right now. And we choose it every moment, every single moment. And the root, I feel, of what I've been given, and I know we all hold different torches, and I don't, and we're all given different parts of the puzzle. So I do not claim to have all the information by any means. We all hold a piece of it. Yet I know from my own experience that that is at the root of shamanism for me, is going into the hell realms, seeing hell, going through your own hell within the hell, and then getting to a certain point of healing that to the extent that then you see hell and you're like, oh, how interesting, look, it's hell. So anyway, all is love and light. Where it can't touch you, you see, because there's nothing in you for it to hook into. And perhaps you're called to do work there, and that's what the shamans do. They can hold space between those dimensions, and they can hold space for you as you enter those dimensions and help you, just hold space. But ultimately, you do the healing yourself. The shaman isn't healing you. They're holding space for you. They're holding your hand in a way. They're just right there by your side while you enter those domains. But you go through enough of those hell realms, and you don't even have to do ayahuasca. Like I was saying, I have a very dear friend who is constantly in and out of rehab with alcohol, and who's just been like this for years and years and years. And it doesn't really matter. I mean, I don't have any judgment about it, yet they know there's an issue, and they keep going into the hell realms, but they don't face their fears. They're not letting themselves surrender enough to get into that nitty-gritty, to hit the bottom and to really face their stuff, whatever's there, to be forgiven, or the resentments, or I don't know. It's their labyrinth. It's their Pandora's box. But I know I've done enough of that stuff myself that once you get to that point, that's where you start to realize and you trust. The more you let go to the will of love, to the will of a higher order, and you call in the graces of love and light to lead the way, and you say, yes, yes, let me feel it all. Let me feel it all. Because it is visceral. We're physical beings, even though I know in A Course in Miracles, we are not a body. We learn this, that we are not a body. Yet, for now, while we're on this earth plane, we inhabit this physical being, and it's full of cells, and all those cells in your body have cellular memory. And every experience you have, whether it's with your husband, your wife, your lover, your partner, your roommate, your landlord, your neighbors, your students, your teachers, your whatever it all is, right? We have all these different experiences where we have the ability to choose love, and it's a will, it's a muscle. I call it spiritual will. Your spiritual will is your ability to choose love, to place love, to extend love over and over and over again. And if you do this on repeat, repetitively, even despite your resistance to it, if you create that will, what happens is you are given a space of grace to experience this plane on the earth that is not what the world tells you it is. And that's your inner shaman living in the world and not of it. And it is a beautiful, powerful space. And maybe it's not for everyone, and I'm not saying it's for everyone, but I feel that we all have these qualities within us if we should choose them. So one last thing, it was interesting speaking about aliens. I think my friend was asking me something about, were these aliens that you had contact with, did they come from a different planet? And it's interesting even having these conversations because I haven't really written about it. I haven't meditated on it. These are just past experiences, right? In my cellular memory. Yet when asked, it creates this brrrr, and like these downloads come. And I said, well, that's interesting you say that because I feel that these other interdimensional beings, that the planets don't exist to them, that's a human thing. That's our man-made consideration of where they must come from. But that's all the way that we can kind of make logic and think that we can figure this stuff out. Yet to them, they're not thinking I come from planet blah, 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 and I'm visiting from wah, wah, wah. And so that was just an interesting download that came, is that there perhaps is no such thing as planets to an interdimensional being, and perhaps there are beings that believe in planets or that come from planets, yet it's not all of them. And knowing that all dimensions are actually interconnected and interwoven infinitely is of great service, because we realize that if everything is interconnected and everything is one, and you imagine that really everything we think we know about anything is just because we think we know it, or what we've been told, or what we've learned, and of course through our own experiences. Yet that is limiting us in the experience of that. And that's why when we are confronted in these situations within ourselves or in the external world, when we let go to love and we let love do the work, guide the way, hold the space, that is when a quantum order, I call love the quantum organizer, when we let go to that quantum organizer to do the recalibration and the realigning of people, places, things, situations, that creates a divine order that then we can flow through life. And that's where we experience synchronicity, when we're living in the now, when we're living from the truth in our hearts, when we're living from a beautiful place that is knowing and not knowing. My sister, my younger sister, 17 years younger than me, she's very enlightened, a very amazing person. And my mother said to her, we were visiting a while ago, and my mother said to her, well, what have you learned spiritually, in your life? And didn't my sister just sit there very calmly for a few moments, and like a master, she said, what I've learned is that everything matters and nothing matters. And I was like, yeah, that's my sister. So cool. And it's so true. Everything matters and nothing matters. And whatever matters, anything, it only matters because you're making it matter. And what is matter? Matter is energy that we've given enough focus and form to, that it creates form, right? Everything is energy, is thought on one level. Yet when we keep repetitively giving it that thought and that energy, it creates a denser form, and it gives rise to a physical entity, a physical reality to be present for us to experience. So everything matters and nothing matters. I love that. I absolutely love that. And I appreciate you chilling out. I know there's a few viewers here tonight. Thank you so much. I just decided to hop on. I don't know if there's any questions or anything. I'll go ahead and have a little look. But I was just fully guided to come on tonight and to say hello and to share a little bit with you. So if you do have something to say, pop it in the comment box. But otherwise, I think we're just going to wrap up. Oh, and isn't this interesting? I don't have, yes, I do. Oh, let me get my glasses. You know me with my glasses. Hey, blessings, Raven Soul. Nice. Thanks for hopping on, Will. The people in my life, Venus first, the people in my life are really mirrors of me. This allows me the opportunity to grow and change. Louise Hay, beautiful. Space of grace, Will. Absolutely, absolutely. Wow, thanks for hopping on and participating. I feel so very grateful, and blessings. And thank you for sharing a little bit of time tonight. I send you so much love and so much light, and namaste. Blessings.